Stench soup.
The old man in the suit and tie walked briskly across the warehouse floor. He passed by a stack of boxes that looked as if they hadn't been touched since the last time he had come to this location, but there were other stacks with dust-covered goods. The old man noticed a single box on an elevated platform near, one wall covered in thick plastic wrap. As he drew closer, his pace slowed until he stopped right next to it. His hand hovered over the lid for several seconds before finally pressing down lightly enough to make a noise. After a few moments of silence, the old man removed the wrapping from around the top half of the box and slowly pulled off the tape that held everything together. With reverence in his eyes, he carefully lifted off the cover piece, revealing its contents within. A small smile spread across his wrinkled face when he saw what was inside. It took him a moment to regain control of himself as he stared at the tiny figure resting inside the box, almost like someone had taken a photograph of their child and placed it here after death. But no, this wasn't just any photo. It was an actual doll. And not just any doll either. It was the exact same doll that belonged to the little girl who lived upstairs in apartment 4A. She'd left the thing behind when she moved out months ago, and forgotten about it altogether. This doll's name is Daisy, but back then her parents called her Darlin. "Good evening!" The voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once, which is why everyone else in the building thought they imagined hearing something. The old man spun around quickly, only to see nothing in the warehouse except for him, the empty boxes stacked up along the walls, and the open doorway leading into the lobby. He looked around again but still didn't spot anything that could have spoken those words. Anxiety began to set in. How many times has he heard the voice? Did anyone else hear it besides him? These questions circled his head over and over until finally giving way to acceptance. It must have been my imagination playing tricks on me. Or maybe this place is haunted or something. Maybe it's because so much stuff has gone missing lately that makes things seem creepy. He closed the lid to the box, slid it onto a shelf near some other random boxes full of items nobody knew what to do with anymore, and turned away from them as if he had finished working. In reality though, the old man had barely begun to work. Instead of heading downstairs, he decided he needed to get off his feet and go home instead. He walked toward the elevator at the end of the hall where the stairwell was located when suddenly another sound broke through the silence in an unfamiliar language. There was no one else around for miles, and even further than that in any direction. Yet someone spoke in a foreign tongue again, louder this time. "You may not believe in me, but you should always keep an open mind." The old man spun around quickly just like before, but saw nothing but more empty boxes stacked against the wall next to him. He didn't want to think it possible, but maybe the doll is talking to him somehow, and it isn't just imaginary. His thoughts went wild, imagining all kinds of possibilities. He was too scared to know what to make of it. He made it to his car, opened the door, and got inside without turning on the lights. A moment later, he found himself in the garage trying to start the engine, which took several attempts and plenty of fiddling with the key. Finally, he managed to turn over the ignition and put the transmission in reverse only to stop almost immediately and step out of his vehicle. Another mysterious voice called to him from the back seat as if answering his question from earlier. "It's okay. I won't hurt you. I'm only here to help." The old man hesitated for a second, but then continued moving toward his car as slowly as possible while glancing behind him at the passenger's side. As he reached the front wheel again, he froze completely when he spotted a woman sitting there who wasn't supposed to be there. Her blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders and fell onto the black leather seat she sat upon. She wore a simple white dress that left one shoulder bare, along with a pair of long blue gloves covering most of her arms below the elbows. There was also an open box between her legs resting on top of the gear shift, full of various things he couldn't identify by their shape alone. They seemed oddly familiar though, so he glanced at it once more before stepping backward away from both the car and its mysterious inhabitant. He waited in silence until they finally vanished into thin air like everything else around them had done in the past hour or so. "Who are you?" he asked, but not in English, and not in any other language either for that matter, but in his own native tongue. The old man moved closer to the driver's door only to have his hands clasped tightly together against his chest when a sudden feeling of unease washed over him for no reason whatsoever. The strange sensation started to take control of him and pulled him outside, where he felt compelled to sit right down against the concrete floor with nothing nearby to hold him up. His head began to spin and a buzzing sound filled his ears, as if someone were tuning a radio frequency somewhere close enough for him to hear it through closed doors, which was impossible anyway since nobody else could have possibly been near him during this time. Suddenly, he noticed a faint light flickering from within the back seat, but all he saw was empty space when he looked directly at it. He lifted himself back up off the ground, took a deep breath, and stepped toward the back of his vehicle again, only to feel something grab onto his arm just above his wrist and pull him backward. The grip wasn't tight or painful though, yet strong enough that he struggled against it even though there wasn't anyone there physically holding onto him. As the unseen force dragged him away from his car, he tried desperately to fight against whatever was controlling him. But it was useless.